Right, could I call your attention? Firstly, I'd like to welcome you all here today, and as usual, I'll introduce my board. John Very, Phil Freeman, Calvin Payne and Sean Yoon, and Councillor Lydia. And also my new recruit. We're looking for young people on the community board. Hazel, nice to see you, dear, really is. But I do welcome you all. Steve Giddens is taken over from Sharon, and we're delighted to have Steve with us. We really are. He's got a lot of thoughts, and it's just something that we do welcome you, Steve. The amount of times I've rung him at the present time, I'm just wondering when he's sort of saying, well, that's it. But no, so far it's been good. And Therese, of course, my personal thanks. And a very cordial welcome to you, Therese. We look forward to, I know one or two of you have got presentations to make today. We look forward to that. I know the council staff have got quite a lot to tell us. So with that, we'll get on with the meeting. Right, apologies. Have we got any? If not, are there any identifications of extraordinary business that wishes to be discussed? John.
Yes, I've got two, Mr. Chair. Public transport, he can.
Yes, that's better. We can.
Transport, he can. Second one is looking and well. And just later is the occurring wastewater levy and
Right, we've monitored those and we'll bring those up at the end. Thank you, John. Anybody got any conflicts of interest? Right, thank you. We'll move on to the financial reporting. Steve, I'll let you do the introducing.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So Sarah Connor is one of our senior business partners at Council. We've provided the paper ahead of time, and hopefully we've addressed some of the questions that were hanging onto the action register that was from the previous meeting, but I'll pass over to Sarah to walk briefly through the paper and then be able to respond to questions.
Thank you, Steve, and welcome again, Sarah. It's nice to see your face here. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you for the warm welcome. So if I take you through the finances for the period ending...
Excuse me.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, there was a concern last time that some of the attendees weren't able to hear some of the speakers.
Right, okay. Are you all, can you all hear? We were in a bigger room last meeting, I must admit, and we did have some soft speaking people. But as long as this room is, I shouldn't think we'll have the same problems. But just let us know if you can't hear, just signal me, please. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Okay. So the finance report for the period ending 31st of December, Malvern Community Board is in a year-to-date deficit of $12,477. Which is favourable to budget by $4,555. The year-to-date revenue for the period ended 31st of December was $84,537, which is below the budgeted revenue by $1,077. This is due to the timing of collections of the targeted rate. This is expected to recover for the full financial year. Year-to-date operating expenses for the period were $41,958, which is below the budgeted expenditure by $5,632. Support charges of $55,056 are on budget. The favourable variances when compared with budget year-to-date are training expenditure. It's favourable to budget by $1,007. There's a cost this month, you'll notice in the accounts, $617, which is for a member to attend the Institute of Directors course. Sister City expenses are favourable to budget due to no spend year to date. Members' year to date remuneration continues to be favourable to budget. Year to date, December, $855. This is due to when the local government members' determination was made. It was after we budgeted for the year. Training and conference expenses are year to date, $613, favourable to budget. Vehicle expenses are $3,171 favourable to budget. Oh no, I've got that. I'll start again there. Vehicle expenses are $3,171 year to date, favourable to budget by $4,029. Unfavourable variances compared with budget are advertising and general expenses. Unfavourable to budget by $281. This is due mainly to the costs incurred for the MCB awards and the printing of the MCB brochures. Refreshments are year to date $547, unfavourable to budget. This is mainly due to a catering bill for the MCB awards. Telephone costs are slightly over budget by $105 year to date. That concludes the finance report for December.
I'll move that be accepted.
Thanks, Lydia. For the item where the remuneration was over budgeted, would it be possible that we repurpose that that amount to cover the deficit for refreshments and advertising? Something to consider for the board.
Steve,
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Like, I think probably we can accept that there will be some line items that will be overspent and underspent. I think we'll look at the bottom line generally.
Yep.
They're both coming from the same funding source. So I think we would probably just say that we look at the final bottom line.
One more question is in relation to, I don't know if we're on this financial report, the statement of financial performance yet. It's just that top item, the actual year to date versus budgeted is in deficit for remuneration, for the targeted rate. Have we discussed that? If we have, that's fine. If we haven't, can we just get a quick explanation on why that's in deficit, please?
The $1,077? Yes. So that's a timing difference. So when we budget for the targeted rate, we budget evenly across the full year, but rates are not necessarily paid when they're due, or so it's just a timing difference. We expect to collect the full rates before the end of financial year.
Thank you.
John?
Yes, I assume that for the March meeting that the financial statement will be to the 31st or whatever it is of probably 28th of February.
Yes, it will be.
Calvin?
Yeah, that was one of my points was, yeah, hopefully it'll be the 28th of February rather than, because we're now looking at 31st of December, is that correct?
Correct.
So yeah, we're a month and a bit out, so that's fine. That'd be really good to get that online, so that then we can actually analyse which budgets maybe have got some surplus that we can reallocate around appropriately within the community, hopefully, once we've got some projects lined up. Also, you've got no statement of our budget, so that's still under discussion for 25-26 I'm talking about.
Yes, the draft budget was tabled last meeting.
Yep.
And my position is we were waiting from the board to get back to us with any changes to that draft budget.
Right, okay, so we'll meet within the next month, the board individually on that, and report back to you.
So I think that's a fair comment, Calvin, because one or two of us have been away and that sort of thing, and we just haven't had the meeting that we had hoped to have. But, and as Steve has already said, we've got a document here now that is coming up for discussion for the rest of the time that the community board will be operating. So it's our intention to have, and I know even John suggested after this meeting, we would have a 3 or 4 hour session. Unfortunately, we can't do that tonight because we're actually helping Kirwi raise funds. So the board has got to keep their wits about them for tonight because we don't want to be the... So at this stage, it's our intention to put a lot of effort into not only the finance, but the future of the community board. Is there any other, Calvin?
Yeah, I've got just a couple of other things. The last meeting we spoke about defining the Selwyn District Council charge in a little bit more detail. We're still awaiting that, I believe, because, well, maybe Steve could.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so in response it's on page 9 of board books for you. There's a summary of how the overhead charges have been calculated. There's a bit of a busman's tour across the history of this charge. It's been around for some time, and it's broken down into how it's apportioned both at the governance level and the general staffing level. So there is a breakdown there, and Sarah and I are happy to take any questions on that matter.
Yeah, could I suggest, though, again, that be held over to our workshop, because I think there is a lot of things there that perhaps do need a little bit of explaining. So that's where, John?
With respect, Mr. Chair, I've just got a couple of brief points that I'd like to make at this
Okay,
meeting.
certainly.
Thank you for the explanation, the council for the explanation. That's really appreciated. The difficulty that I'm having, and remember I'm financially illiterate, is that when I meet with people out there who are hurting with their rates increases, they say, well, that's all very well, it's historical, but look at it, John. You've got 5 members elected. You're a very small board. It doesn't pass the finger in the wind test. That when you look at the fact that $175 approximately is raised and 100,000 goes back to the council for servicing, there just seems to be a little bit more work in there. What services are we paying for? What services are we getting? And I won't go on too much further, Mr. Chair. So I'd quite like to see that refined. And also the other thing is that it's on a FTT of 515, and I believe that council staff has probably increased by 20% and is getting close to 650. So if we retain the same historical basis of calculating it, there's going to be a substantial take from the targeted rate.
Yeah.
And in my conversations with the constituents in the Hawkins subdivision that I interact with, I would like to see, and I'll put my hand up now, that the targeted rate stay at 25. And just as a thing that we'll have further discussion on, the council services charge reduced by about 40%.
Yeah, I think that's, thank you, John, but this is an old thing that we've been fighting for quite some time. And I think the thing is, again, that once we have our meeting and get our perspectives right, and in conjunction with Steve, he's well aware of the problems that we're facing. We're well aware of what our constituents are facing. And so I think we've got to get, to put it quite bluntly, we've got to get a bang for our money. It's simple as that.
100% in agreement, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. If there's nothing further and no further discussion, I'll put the motion that we accept the financial report as presented. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. We move now on. Sarah, if you wish to retire, but you're more than welcome to stay. Okay. Public forum. Harvey, I think That's it. Thank you. Okay.
On behalf of the Darfield Residents Association, we'd like to get a very strong show of support from this board regarding the opposition to the rates increase proposed by council for this coming year. When the council set those rates last year, obviously the inflation that they built into the system was running at about 5% or whatever. Lydia has done some work in getting, or some vague acknowledgement from council as to how they set those rates. But I do notice that the likes of Christchurch City Council have been able to go back and review their rates based on the fact that inflation has now been reduced. I feel this board has got to urge council to relook at that rate very strongly now, with a view to putting in a new inflation basis so that we can at least expect some reduction in that overall rate that's been proposed. This has got to be an urgent one. This is what we're hearing from all the residents we speak to. They're concerned about the rate rises, and council have got no excuses to not take a strong stand and relook at their values. So I would urge this board to put a strong memo or whatever they need to do to council to ask for that to be reviewed. Simply, it should be a paper, a computer exercise to relatively easily recalculate that.
Is there anything you just want to add to that at the meantime, or I'm going to open it for our board?
No, I open that for discussion.
You're quite happy
fine,
at this
yes.
stage. Okay, I certainly support what you're saying. I do. It's not only Malvern district; it's right around the whole Selwyn area. There is the rate problem. There is the increase. We're all got limited incomes, so let's live within our means. Sian.
Hey, thanks, Harvey. Was the inflation amount for this area provided to you by council?
Lydia was able to get some figures. Well, Lydia can probably speak to what she was able to screw out of council, but it's not very clear as to exactly the actual rate.
Would you turn your...
The actual rate used was not disclosed. Lydia
Thank you.
Probably comment.
Lydia, do you want to make comment?
I guess Harvey and I have been in correspondence about this, about what the actual inflation rate is for the 25-26 rates and what the component of that is. And I think the concern comes from when we take into QV values that have mostly gone up for people. So there's extra revenue generated through that. And then looking at what actually is our inflation component when we're told that inflation is lowering, and what we have modelled our LTP data off. And I haven't actually really had a very straight answer into what our inflation component is. And a lot of it is sort of me having to read between the lines and a lot of data. So I've been given data to read, which has been quite interesting. So, and then to read our policy. So our range is from 2 to 5.3% inflation of what component we use. So I guess we can assume that it could be 5.3 because some of the data that I've been given is around the BERL economic briefing. And so I've read through all of that. And so at the time that our rates were set, the inflation rate was actually at 6.7. So I'm assuming it's 5.3 because if that is what is in our policy. So again, those are just my assumptions based on data that I've been given.
So could I just ask a question? What was the inflation rate worked on for last year then? What was it? What did the council work on?
I'm assuming it's 5.3. I don't have a clear answer on it. But it sits within a range of 2 to 5.3% as per our policy. So it would be nice to have a clear answer on that.
Exactly. Agreed.
I don't have eye over those budgets. Yeah.
Harvey?
Can I just ask, is it likely that the council will review the rate for this coming year?
Thank you, Harvey. Council have to establish and put out a new annual plan for year 2, and so that will be the full budget, and that will set out those things that have influenced that, which is inflation, the QV valuation. So there are a number of changes to our budget, but we have to submit and make available for the public our annual plan. We're working through the timeframes on that at the moment. But I think there's an opportunity for the chair to present to council later, at the March meeting, I think. And that might be something that the chair may wish to bring up directly with the councillors.
Great, we'd appreciate the chair.
Because I think one of the things we had from council, and this is again where the board has not agreed that we don't have a representation review. So I think the thing is that they're really, in many ways, not giving ratepayers much of a chance. That's my opinion. John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the constructive comments. That I think it's right that there is the quotable value increase, which in my way, being financially illiterate and a little bit simplistic, compounds it. So you've got inflation's dropped, so the rates are set. Now values have gone up approximately 5%. So that's a formula that needs, I believe, some clarification. And the other one too is that it's my understanding that there were several key projects in the long-term plan that didn't get the anticipated funding. So my assumption would be those projects won't go ahead. And I appreciate that council's working through whether they'll make a refund, lower the rates, or what they'll do. And I think it's those things there, especially considering that we've, in my view, got the concerning situation where there is no consultation, and that council has approached and engaged and inform approach. So I think these are fairly major issues, and it would be nice for the chair to have the opportunity to present the board's view officially at the council meeting in March. Thank you.
Calvin?
Yeah, I tend to agree with most of the other comments, but thank you very much, Harvey, for bringing it forward. I'm also personally hearing within the community there's an issue with rates, and there obviously is. There's pressure on everybody's money at the moment. And thank you, Lydia, for trying to burrow into council for the information so we can base some decisions. And I appreciate that I will personally support Bruce to go forward to the March meeting at council to present on this particular issue. We need to support the community, and I'll also be asking other people their views, and where we may be able to do something. It sounds like there needs to be some adjustment somehow, and the formulas need to be interrogated to make sure they're correct and fair to everybody involved. Okay, thank you.
Harvey, is there any other comments you want to make?
Not regarding that, no, thank you. But there are a couple of other items I'd like to discuss.
Okay, so as far as this, what we've discussed so far,
I'm happy
okay,
with that.
so there's other items I know
Yes.
that you want to bring up.
Yes.
Okay, you're welcome to do so.
Okay. The next one is I would like this board to show some leadership in terms of the sewage situation in Darfield and Kirwee. We're obviously having a lot of uncertainty around the community now as to what the liability of householders will be when the sewer goes past their place. I think it's up to this board, and I think John is going to present something to the board which we fully support, that the board should be creating a policy of how people need to connect or whether they don't need to connect. I've given some suggestions to the board in terms of if people have a valid permit, then that should be an exclusion for them.
That's mainly concerning the connecting, basically.
Connection, yes. So, but I would like this board to make the opportunity to create a policy and put it out to the community for discussion, so that the community has an input into deciding whether or not they need to connect to the sewage system.
Thank you. Right. Any comments on that, Sian?
Do we have any jurisdiction in being able to create any policies in that area? I don't think we do.
I don't believe we'll probably have the jurisdiction to create policy, but we can certainly put our points forward. John?
I agree, and I'm sure the word policy was used loosely, that under section 52 of the Local Government Act, I believe that there's provision for the board to be proactive
Correct.
and achieve exactly what the speaker has suggested, although it will not be policy.
Correct.
Prepare a report, and I would be so bold as to suggest that that should go from the board formally to the March council meeting by the chair.
Thank you. Phil, did you want to make a comment? You're right, okay. Again, that answers your question, Sian. As regards policy, we use that word very loosely at this stage.
Apologies.
No, that's fine. Councillor Glidden.
I think it's actually more of an advocacy role and information
That's
sharing, so
exactly.
that actually the board are presented with the right information that they can then communicate to constituents and residents around the plan, and the work that has to happen before you can even identify where the connections are going to happen. So I think that there's a nice comms piece and information sharing for the board and community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Your
just a
next,
reminder that it's about $500,000 sitting in the kitty there that hasn't been spent, that needs to be allocated in some way, in shape or form to this connection.
Okay.
The last one I just wanted to mention is the fact that I think we'll be taking over the jail. Is that correct, Sian? Yeah, Sian's given us some great help there, and we'll be taking over the jail. Well, the council will, we hope, continue to maintain it. We're going to look at upgrading the presentation of the jail and making sure it's open on a daily basis. But we will certainly ask for some help from this board in terms of getting things rolling, and we appreciate what Sian's done so far.
Yeah, thank you for that. Do you want to make a comment, Sian?
Yeah, so I have some comments around Darfield Jail and where we're at so far with communications and conversations. So I'll provide an update. I haven't put it into the report yet, but I'll table that when it comes to my turn. Thank you, Harvey.
This has been something that the board has been very much in behind, largely through Sian. And the point is now that it's nice to see that we've got responsibility, be it within our own area. And I think that's what the board is very supportive of.
That's great, thanks. Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Anything, any further comments, Harvey? Okay, again, I thank you for your appearing, and I do support and the concepts that you are yourself putting forward to us. There's no other ones to raise, nobody else? Thank you. Confirmation of minutes is before you. Is somebody prepared that they be signed as a true and accurate record? Sorry, Phil, you've so moved.
Yeah, I'll move them true and accurate.
Lydia has second. It's open for discussion. Are there any corrections or anything, or any comments on anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I'd just like to make a note that the page 11 of the financial reporting, that will be something I'll have something to say about when we meet to discuss the finances.
That's what you mean at our workshop. Yep, no, that's fine, because there's quite a number of things I've also mentioned there myself, I've marked. Okay, is there any further discussion on it? If there's no alterations or anything further, I'm prepared to put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you. Actions from the general meeting on page 16. Are you happy with those actions at this stage? Some of them will be an ongoing. In regards to your Betso, I'll bring that up later, I think, Calvin. It'll come up perhaps under your report, and then we can discuss that there. The road naming changes, have taken our suggestions, and that's where we are currently. The financial report And that again will be a continuation. When do you want to have your? Eh? Oh, that's what I'm saying. Because then they can go as they so did right. Yeah, but they're there. No, but no. Yeah, but you want to bring your guys here.
Yeah.
You want to bring them up
Yeah,
now.
they're in that.
Oh, you're going to
I'll
wait
take
until
them,
then.
yeah. So if we do items.
Oh, well, we're not far away anyway. Right. Okay. Correspondence? Any correspondence? Right, thank you. Now, the reports, I know you haven't had very many written reports this time to raise. Some may want to apologise. Myself, could I say at this stage, under the circumstances I'm actually operating on at the present time, I do apologise. But I do also thank my board members for stepping up. And also the council staff, I thank them also, particularly Therese, Sharon and Steve. The main thing why I haven't been very active, of course, is the fact that I've got my other half in hospital. She's been there for five weeks. Prior to that, she was there for 2 weeks. They then sent her home and said there was nothing wrong with you. The hospital have apologised, likewise the doctors have also apologised. She's developed something that we never know what's around the corner for any of us. In October, she lost all her strength. Her, what do you call those things? Yeah, the things that look after you supposedly have all eaten themselves. And so she's got no, round your nerves, you're supposed to have something that your brain puts into gear to tell you, I want my arm lifted up. Unfortunately, they've all been eaten or they've been destroyed. And so at this stage, she's had two, thank you to you people, she's had two transfusions. They were $40,000 each. And so she's had 80,000 spent on her, which I do I do remind her. But I must admit, in my opinion, which is only my opinion, of course, it was completely worthwhile. But at this stage, it hasn't developed like they were. She's at Burwood currently, but at this stage, she's probably going to go back into public. I know a lot of people condemn our medical system, but unless you get involved with it, I must admit I condemned it before Christmas. I just felt that I didn't think we were getting the attention that we should have, but at this stage it's totally opposite now. They couldn't be better. So I do thank particularly my board and the council for the help that I've received. Long may it continue. So that's the reason why really I haven't given a report. It's been a quiet month, I must admit myself, but I congratulate my board members for stepping up and taking their role on behalf of me. And I thank Lydia also. She's kept me informed on everything that's happening. So hopefully things will get better. So that's my report. I will move it as a verbal report. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Been moved and seconded. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Sean.
Thank you. I've actually got a report here to table. So in regards to the Darfield Jail, there was a meeting on January 31st with Harvey, John, Calvin, myself and Catherine to discuss a plan. And the plan is to have reopen the jail. The week later, Harvey, Calvin and myself met with Sarah and Libby from Selwyn Libraries to discuss the historical articles we have and making sure they get catalysed and digitised. I've been receiving progress updates from Sarah Davey and information to assist with obtaining quotes for any upgrades the community may want. Once items are catalogued and digitised, we have to decide how to display existing and new artefacts or store items. Exploring where donations collected from the jail have gone to. So if anyone has any information on what those donations might have been put under, that'll be very helpful. Catherine is going to be funding the memorial seat that will be placed at the jail after we get permission from council. MCB will be funding the foundation for the memorial seat. The opening date will be September the 11th, 2025, and it'll be organised by LB Working Group, which consists of Darfield Residents Association, some board members and community members. Darfield has, one thing that was raised to our attention by Selwyn Libraries is they're trying to put together a historical trail or heritage trail at the moment throughout Selwyn, and focusing particularly on Malvern at the moment. There is no heritage or historical society in Darfield. It's the only township in Malvern that doesn't have one. So I think that this is a good opportunity for MCB or DRA to get involved and help facilitate spinning one up or getting the information out there to the community, so the community decide if they would like to get one going to work alongside the council. Malvern Arts Council, I was invited to attend their meeting on February the 19th at Huanui. They would be interested in joining any art trails, particularly heritage art trails, if they're available. And there is an interest to connect with Selwyn District Council on opportunities within local history. So I'll make contact with council and try and get somebody available to one of their meetings sometime soon. Combined resident group workshops. So we held one this month. Main focus items were the speed limits coming into the townships and villages of the state highway. And we discussed, Lydia provided us an update on Selwyn District Council submissions on roading plan. And there's an action point that came out of that meeting for MCB to provide a submission on consultation in July and make that available to the communities. We discussed water. There was concern around the insurance of the water supply to Horada. Lydia has explained to us amalgamated water supply for Horada and Hartleys and potentially others within Malvern. We discussed the local water done well consultation, the fact that it is only open for 3 months. I'd like to potentially make a motion that MCB submits on this consultation, prioritise time ASAP to appoint someone to draft the submission. I will continue to focus on social media promotion and engagement on that topic. The resident groups would like the opportunity for an open forum with the community leaders to engage with Selwyn District Council staff. So people talking about inviting Selwyn District Council staff to discuss topics and have an open conversation within the community at our workshops going forward. I have also attached an image on the back of the workshop outcomes that was on the whiteboard. And finally, my Future Town workshop. I just want to say it was awesome to see such a great outcome at the West Melton workshop, with representatives from all the way to Arthur's Pass. Even Greendale and Whitecliffe's representatives turned up to have their say, so that was really good. That's my report. I remove it. Yep.
I can only concur with you.
Yeah, I'd just like to correct Sean slightly. She said 3 months local water done well is open for. It's actually only 3 weeks. So we need to get onto this because there's almost a week gone already.
Correct.
So we're down to 2 weeks. So it's really, really important that we get onto this. I will be doing a personal submission and I will support the board if we do one as well. And I sincerely hope we will. But yeah, thank you, Sean.
It was certainly, it's my intention before we close this meeting to publicly announce when we will be meeting as a board. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you. Move on to the next report. Calvin.
Okay, I'd like to move my verbal report.
Well, we haven't seen it yet.
Well, it's because I'm going to do it verbally.
No, well,
anyway,
that's what I'm saying. You do it verbally and then move it.
Okay.
We don't know
I
what you're going to tell
apologise
us.
for the incorrect procedure. So firstly, I'd like to apologise for doing a verbal one this month. Couple of reasons. I've got Kirwee Community Association and West Milton District Resident Association meetings after the reports were due. So I wanted to include information from them. And also a little bit about sister cities as well is still ongoing. So I want to get the latest information to this meeting. Okay, so firstly, sister cities, the next meeting's on the 4th of March. And after that 4th of March, I'll do a full report and I'll bring it to our workshop. Basically, it's still the current situation is we're out asking for local community members to put their names forward if they want to go on their Japan and China visit. They close on the 3rd of March. So everything's right up to that 4th of March. And then we need to decide as a board who is going to represent us, particularly in Japan, because it's Yubitsu. So we don't need to talk about that any further. Finance, we've already spoken about. January and February, been quite a lot going on. I attended 4 of the My Future Town workshops. The one in West Melton was best attended, which was awesome to see from the Malvern community. I attended 2 in Lincoln and 1 in Kirwee, obviously in Malvern again. But the 2 in Lincoln I attended because West Melton is part of the East area, which is actually part of the same area as Lincoln. So it was relevant that it was consistent response from most people, and that will be in the official response, I'm sure, and I'll be checking it is. Mainly about keeping our green spaces and potentials about talking about stopping growth rather than just accepting it and trying to accommodate it. So those were 2 themes that I picked up. So I've also got Kirwee Community Association and West Melton District Residents Association. In March, Malvern has got an awful lot going on. We've got the West Melton Market and the West Melton Fete at the beginning of the month and end of the month. The West Melton Fete is one of the most attended fetes, I'd say, at the primary school in West Melton. So all be aware of that. Malvern A&P towards the end of the month. And then we've also got the field days in Kirwee, which is a biannual thing, 3 days of most of the farmers from the whole of South Island coming up to see some of the awesome new equipment. So there's going to be a lot of people and a lot of things going on in March in Malvern. Your local water done well. Consultation, we've already spoken about that. So I don't think we need to take that any further. Also, the ECAN have suggested a new bus route trial for Malvern. So we do need to discuss that, but I don't think I need to say anything more about that at the moment. Darfield Jail, Heritage Society, thanks to Sian for all her good work and to Darfield Residents Association. And we're nearly there, so we're going to make sure we get there by September the 11th. And that's just an anniversary of when the jail was originally opened in its current position. So Kerwis Community Association, they came up with some really good, at their last meeting, some really good opportunities for us as a board to support them and help them. Basically, safety on Hoskins Road, key route from the highway through to Rolleston. Speed and safety through Kerwi, really important. Obviously it's NZTA because it's a highway, so we've got some work to do there. Lydia's been supporting us with that. Playground, they've currently got an unsafe playground, and they need to do some work to it, and we've got some funding and we're going to work with them to support them to get that defined and going. Also, they'd like a dog park in Kerwi. They've got a problem with dogs leaving deposits on the rugby field, which is not really acceptable in any society. So we need to support them with that. Community garden, they've got one going. We need to support them and build on what they've got. And of course, Awesome War Memorial project that's almost there. Hopefully tonight at the quiz night, we'll actually make it. We're almost there funding wise. And then West Melton District Residents Association, again, Hoskins Road Safety. They've been on about that for the last 2.5 years. So I'm going to support them right the way through. Some Anzac plaques that we need to finalise and sort out at Holcott. They're asking lots of questions about the EV chargers at the West Melton Community Centre. So I'm going to ask some questions of council and make sure that the community are not paying for them. I'm sure they're not, but also we might make sure council are not paying for them. And West Melton District Residents Association really enthusiastic about. They've got lots of new developments there that the developers have now walked away from because it's outside their time frame, and they'd like to get some appropriate tree planting done. We're not talking about a handful of trees, we're talking about lots of trees. So we're talking about a lot of funding that we may be able to help them with. So there's some projects I picked up just from 2 meetings that have been things that they've been talking about. They also came across at the My Future Town workshops as well. I was getting it face to face from people as well. So it's awesome communities, Kerwi and West Melton, and the rest of Malvern, of course. But they're the 2 I deal with. Hoskins Road Safety, I've already mentioned. We've got Anzac Day coming up. Kerwi's first Anzac Day. Hopefully, Laurie is sitting in the corner. Hopefully, we will have some construction work started. I'll make sure we can get something there that there's physically something there. We've met on a grass spot before with the mayor, but we need to take that just one step further, hopefully before 25th of April. And our RA meetings, our resident association group meetings, I've attended one during the month with Sian, and we need to keep those going. We've got one planned for April, June, and August, I believe, John. So yeah, we'll keep those joint meetings going. That's where we get our residents associations, 14 communities in Malvern, get them all together, and we then we talk about the overall Malvern issues and try and get some consistent themes going so that we can bring it forward to council and get things sorted. So thank you. I'll move on.
Okay, thank you, Kelvin. So you'll move your verbal report. Seconder. Thank you, Phil. Moved and seconded. In regards to a nomination, be it from the community board, do you want to do that now or not? Because, you know, you want to explain the nomination. If he's going to, he or she going to represent the community board, it is at their own cost.
Yeah, you're talking about the Ubitsu visit,
Correct.
Which may be combined with the China visit. Yeah, it is at your own cost. I'm not sure it's a nomination as such. It's somebody putting their name forward.
Well, it is, but basically we're invited as a community board to have a representative representing the community board. That's what we are invited to do.
Yeah, this is the 20th.
So, I mean, the main thing is I'm certainly not available. So it's a matter whether one of you other four are prepared to go on the journey and represent the community board.
Yeah, it's probably a discussion outside this meeting, Bruce.
Okay,
that
that's
we-
fine,
we
as long
should
as you
have-
don't want.
But it is,
As
it's
long
the
as the-
25th anniversary of the Ubitsu Malvern Community Board, not Selwyn District Council
No,
arrangement. So we need to have somebody in Japan this year
Correct.
as a community board.
correct.
And it is at your own cost. The cost of the flights and
Let's
accommodation.
not worry about
Yeah.
that just at the present
I've got
time.
those numbers, so
Okay, no. if
we can
could.
talk about this at our workshop
Yeah,
maybe.
that's right.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. John?
Can I make the suggestion that the dates of all those activities could be passed through to the governance officer so that they can be recorded and we can put them in our diaries?
Right, thank you. Steve, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just following on that. I'm just looking at the paper for the Sister City Committee. Applications close on the 3rd of March.
Yes.
There is a subcommittee that will meet, and it's a mix of the Sister City Committee and the Malvern Community Board to assess the applications to make the decision.
Yep.
And then an announcement will be made on the 21st of March.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, I'm prepared to put Calvin's report. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Phil, your written report is in front of us.
Yeah, I'll move my written report. Finally got one in.
Is there a seconder for that? John, thank you. It's open for discussion. Any comment you wish to make, Phil?
No, just that comment on the reserve management. It's a work in progress. I know they've taken on all the reserves, so it's just a case of them trying to chase the 8 ball. But definitely noticing this year with like a funny seasonal, they're so far behind with their maintenance. We're just hoping that they do come back and pick it all up in the future.
But you are in touch with Cord on this, aren't you? Are you?
No, you can't. You can't tell him what to do.
So you're not the whole rata committee?
We've been asking and asking, but yeah, it's just they just can't cover it. It's left up to the rangers to make the decisions. So it's not the community, it's the ranger.
No, appreciate that.
And the ranger is a
Yeah, but the point that
verbal
you're
with
making
the-
in your report is
Yeah.
the fact that it's not being done in Horata's opinion.
It's not just Horata, it's Springfield.
No,
it's
I
everywhere.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I think they just need to, and they are working towards talking to the
Yeah,
reserves
bec-
team, working
Because
towards getting
as you've said in your, right from the outset, it's been a most unusual season. And so, as long as they are aware of our concerns, that's the main thing. Any further comment?
No.
John?
I wonder whether we could go one step further and maybe have the council provide a brief report just to provide clarity, because it is a consistent theme that I'm hearing. And
Yeah.
it's also, and not that I want to get involved in operational matters, that it used to be done one way and there's been a change, and whenever there's a change, there's likely to be hiccups, but maybe some consistency and a bit of a reassurance that going forward, it has changed.
Okay, if we take those points forward, Steve.
Yeah, just in response to that, I think that'll be one of the discussions in my executive report. We talk about the forward work plan and then establishing some regular cycle of reporting on key operational issues that you want to hear about or the community want to know about, and putting a bit of a regular cycle of reporting in place.
Yep. Okay, thank you. John?
No apology, but an explanation. The reason why I didn't provide a written report was people are familiar with my reports in the past. And given the fact that in my view, there was a significant change in the liaison person with council, I want to be fully supportive of moving forward, as I see that we had the groundbreaking decision last year that the Malvern Community Board would continue. And we now have Mr. Giblin with us to guide us and develop us as we move forward to those goals. So I thought it would be better to present a brief verbal report. And as it turns out that the items I wish to discuss are probably put forward for later in the, special business. So that'll be it.
Okay, thank you, John. Your move. Second up, John's report, verbal report, open for discussion. Calvin? Oh, you're just seconding it. Yeah, it's already been seconded. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I shall put his verbal report All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Councillor Glidden. Is Hazel going to give it or you going to?
Yeah. Do you want to do it? I think I'll just take my report as read. There's a few points in there that are of interest to the community. And I thank you for being very accommodating with having my apprentice with me. And yes, note of interest, I'm quite happy to move my report.
No,
I
that's
don't
fine.
think I need
Thank
to
you.
talk through that.
Second for, thank you. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on it? Could I say that, Lydia, you know, the time that you've got with everything else, I do admire the fact that you keep us right up to date, not only in your reports, but even on the computer. You know, you keep us right up to date. So I do congratulate you and thank you. If there's no, John?
Yeah, I would endorse the remarks of the chair, and I don't know, but are you able to give a slightly more fulsome detail on the Sheffield pool?
I think that you'll get that in the report from James later, part of Steve's report. So I think that at this point in time with hearings and things happening that I'm not particularly involved in anything going forward. And that Sean is the same. And actually I did have a question in there as whether the board did actually want a transport briefing from staff at some point. Yeah. And in the point of interest, I do need to go at 10 to 5.
I'm aware of that.
Things going on, but if I'm not here for the ECAN annual plan or transport conversation, I would encourage you to put a submission in.
Thank you. Phil?
Just looking at one point there on regarding the Horata Fish Pond, it still has no water available to it, so we're going to be down the same situation in the future.
Any comment on it? No, right. Okay.
No comment, Mr. Chair, just noted and we'll
Yeah,
follow
that's
up.
right. Are you happy with that? Oh, yep, that's okay. All right, I'll put the report. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Move on to item 14, the Executive Director. Steve.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple of guest appearances from a couple of key staff.
Yep.
I've got Ben and Matt who are going to come up briefly and give an overview of the West Melton project.
Yep.
I'll spend a bit of time talking about the community engagement and how it relates to the operations of the space and how they've heard the voice of the community, but some of the challenges that I've also got. So I'll welcome Ben up. Whilst they come up, so you come up and set yourself up, mate. The other point, there's a couple of other things we'll touch on. I've also got one of my team members, Julie, who will spend a bit of time just talking about the local Water Done Well consultation, and I'll give a bit of an update around the consultation and some drop-in sessions that are being developed at the moment for community members to take part in around the community. So I can give a quick update on that. But over to you, Ben.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we met with the sports clubs and the neighbours of the reserve. The project's in several parts. There's the work which has happened, being the pressurised sewer main and the car park extension to the north of the community centre. The next phase is the new tennis and netball courts, which are behind the community centre. So the trees have been cleared. We've had discussions and engagement with the clubs around shelter, and that's a key concern of theirs at the moment, is planting so they can undertake the sport, and also with the neighbours, and they have concerns around the activity being noise and light spill. Yeah, so at the moment it was designed with 6 courts, 6 tennis and 6 netball, and that was just due to the amount of cost, with the future having provision for a further 2 courts, being 8. It's been decided to investigate the 8 now because the cost of initiation and utilising doing it once. So at the moment we've engaged a QS. He's going to provide his findings, and after that there'll be discussion about actually proceeding with the 8, and that's as the deliverable. That will change the current design because there'll be increase in surface water design and the amount of material needed. So once the discussion's had, we'll know where we're headed in terms of construction time phase. It'll go to tender this year, but it'll take a little bit longer to redesign. Well, increase the scope rather, not design.
In the conjunction when you took the trees down, did you actually talk to the people, like the committee? Because when I used to be on it years ago, you know, the trees were actually a shelter, and I did mention to Jonathan Crawford at that time, you know, to me, while they were useless the way they were, but they could have been trimmed back on a year-to-year basis, so that they could have become a nice hedge. But obviously, whose decision was it in the finish?
In hindsight, I guess it was the project team's decision to clear the site to make way for the tennis courts and the tennis court fence. But having met the club, if we proceed with the planting sooner rather than later, we'll work with them in terms of even temporary planting, but something has to happen in the instance. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, because the temporary bund that you've got there currently, that was all going to be carted away.
Yes, yeah.
And I said to them, what's the point in carting it away when you don't know yet what sort of levels you want for your things? So
that site there's the bund to the south, and then there's that rise adjacent to the neighbour's fence. Yeah. So it's a whole lot of stuff happening.
So the trees in behind the bund, you're going to leave those there.
The leylands we're going to leave, and we expect that they'll increase in size because now they're not blocked by the enormous trees. But we'll be planting something between that fence that where the market ends currently, where the market goes up to, that'll be planted on the tennis court side.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Calvin?
Yeah, thanks Ben for coming and telling us about the project. I've had some feedback from the community who I understand are in consultation with you regarding the market in particular, because they've got their March, April and May markets left, and it's an awesome group of people and it's an awesome facility for the community. So are you aware of when the car park's been extended and therefore taking out?
Yeah, so
can you perhaps just tell me a bit about that?
With the change, if we proceed with the 8, the market doesn't need to move inside. I think it was a temporary measure that Kylie had arranged. They can just continue as they are. We'll inform them once we're underway, but I don't envisage it actually happening before May.
Okay, right.
They'll be.
So we need to encourage you to go with the 8 and delay the projects a little bit. Yeah, okay, I understand fully. Thanks very much.
Any further questions? Any other further comment you want to make?
Yeah, and also about the Horata pond, I'm happy to. I was involved in that a little bit.
Thank you.
Very, very small little bit.
No, that's okay.
Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Phil might have raised the issue about water.
Yeah, that we've had discussions on site last week, and that is something that's on my to-do list in terms of where we get that from and how we ensure that the site can operate with it's required. It's needed. It's at the moment there's a potential risk, but I think we can all work together and mitigate it. We've got capacity. It's just where we get it from.
Lydia.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Don't go anywhere too quick through it, Ben. Well, you know what I'm going to ask you is just about the some rescoping of the project, or how is the bund going in acoustic fencing? Conversation.
So the acoustic fence will continue to the edge of the car park, to the rather than the full width, because there'll be the bonus, I guess, will be from a security perspective. The tennis court fence will be right against their property, so the Nesbits will be secure in terms of there wouldn't be as much risk, but the acoustic fence will only extend to the limit of the new car park.
Okay. Are you communicating that with them?
I haven't gone back to them yet. Once we know from the end of this week, I will.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Any further questions on that issue? Right. If nothing else, are you going to make comment on?
Yes. So two elements. I'm going to just swap Ben out.
Yep.
We'll bring Julie up. So just wanted to spend a brief portion of time on the local water done well. Introducing Julie Hands. She's the head of our legal and risk team here at council. She'll give a quick overview of the legislation and the sort of the overarching context. I'll then give a quick update around the consultation that you've got the material today, and there's copies available for members of public too. And we are looking at a range of drop-in sessions, so there's opportunities for people to ask and to have a discussion with key staff. So we're just finalising that plan, and we hope to communicate something. But I'll pass to Julie for a quick overview.
So I'm going to start right back at the very beginning, if you will indulge me with how we've come here to be here. So as you all know, we had Three Waters prior to this, which was repealed at the beginning of last year by the government's first suite of legislation that the government put out, which has been dubbed Local Water Done Well. That first piece of legislation didn't do a lot other than repeal the previous regime. What there was then quickly introduced to government after was a bill, which has now become the Preliminary Arrangements Act, which was very directive at councils that they were to consider how they were going to be delivering water going forward intergenerationally, and to propose a model for how they would do that that would allow for financial sustainability and to ensure the security of these water assets and services for their communities going forward. Now, councils were are required to consider one option, which is in-house delivery. Now, that is not status quo, that is in-house delivery in compliance with a new set of regulations that are going to be set down by the government. And to either then look at a joint CCO, a CCO that is a council-controlled organisation that is controlled only by Selwyn District Council, and to model what those two would look like. And through a series of workshops, the council decided last year that the preferred option, as we weren't able to find an economic partner to partner with, was to go forward with the standalone CCO, and that is when modelled against an in-house delivery option with increased regulation, was the preferred option going forward to look after our assets going future. Coming to the consultation document, we're only presenting the two options because that is what the new arrangement that the government has set place for Local Water Done Well requires of us. This consultation document may look a little bit different to how you may have seen things in the past, and the process may not look the same as what you would normally expect for something like that. Now, that is because of this legislation that the government passed in August last year that changes the regime on how we do consultation just for water assets and our proposed water delivery model going forward. The modelling that's in here, the impacts are in here, it's all set down by legislation, and the process has been altered from the normal special consultative process that we would normally go through.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Julie. So in terms of the timelines, consultation is kicked off 20th of Feb, so that was last week. 12th of March, consultation period closes. And then on the 20th of March, council will be hearing from submitters on their views. And then on the 26th of March will be deliberations with the aim that council makes a decision on the 2nd of April. In terms of the feedback that we've got already, and the team are working on a plan, is that there will is proposed to be a number of drop-in sessions that the team are working on. We have one confirmed, which will be this Thursday at Te Aratia in Rolleston from 6 till 7, and we're working on a number of other drop-in sessions, which will also include Facebook Live sessions, so people don't have to travel but can still ask and engage in a discussion with staff and elected officials. These dates are all yet to be confirmed, aside from the Rolleston date, but the team are working hard to get these confirmed urgently to get them out so people can diarise. So that's just a quick update on Local Water Done Well. If there are any questions, Julie or I are happy to take them.
Kelvin?
Yeah, firstly, I'd just like to declare potential conflict of interest. I actually work as a consultant for Christchurch City Council, and I'm currently working on the Three Waters project with them. So any information I talk about Christchurch City Council will be in the public domain now. Nothing will come from what I'm working on with them. So I understand that Christchurch City Council are consulting on 3 options. 2 waters, 3 waters, going in a council controlled organisation, and then the status quo. So as far as I can see, we're actually, in the questions that we're being presented with, we've got 2 options. One is council controlled organisation with 2 waters, and the status quo with some alterations. I understand the government are asking us to make some alterations. I understand there's actually 4 options there, generally speaking, which is there's a 4th one, which is the council suggesting that they work with another council, either locally or more outside. So there is actually 4 options for the community. I'm just making that clear to the community, really, that there is 4 options, and there is a further comments section as well on the consultation, which is really good. The out of interest, Christchurch City Council have just announced that they're going to a memorandum of understanding with Dunedin City Council regarding their water services. So it's not just your neighbouring authorities you can talk to. They're not actively, as far as I'm aware, because it's in the press, actually going into an active agreement. It's just a memorandum of understanding, so they can understand each other's water services. So there's lots of other options out there. There's not just 2 answers. So that's one. Well, it's not a question; it's a comment, really. But another.
Can I?
Yeah,
It
go for
might
that one.
just be worth clarifying that, Julie, because Julie.
So that for Selwyn, the decision has been made by the council. We are only consulting on 2 options. The decision will be on the 2 options. There are not 4 options available for our community to consult on.
Right, and that's because of a decision made by council. Yeah, okay, understand that. Thank you. The other one is I'm under understanding, because I've seen the date, that we need to make a decision by the 1st of July. Is that correct? Or is there?
We'll be making the decision that will be made by council on the 2nd of April, and it was determined by the council in November last year that if the decision were to proceed, that we would target a 1 July commencement implementation.
Okay. Yeah, because I understand the dates out there in the community from Christchurch City Council are that they're going to make a decision by potentially the 1st of September. So it concerns me that we've got 2 different timescales out there in our relatively local community. And it's just a bit of concern that we make sure that we get this decision right in the right time frame. Don't rush it, because I know there's an election and I know there's some controls on when decisions can and can't be made regarding elections, but we just need to get this one right. It's really important. So thank you. That's my comments, really.
Okay, is there any comment on that? No, can I just take Lydia first, if I may, Sian, because she's got to get away.
I think I just wanted to provide some clarity around the decision that was made to have a standalone CCO, and we have workshopped a lot of information around joint CCOs, and it is the best option for Selwyn. If you're looking at joint CCOs, they were outside of our immediate area, and potentially you would look at Selwyn ratepayers funding those other areas, which I don't think is a good choice for Selwyn.
Yeah, wasn't acceptable. Okay, Sian? Okay, thank you. Calvin?
Can I just respond to Lydia for clarifying that? And I understand also that Selwyn District Council is in a relatively unique position with its water services, i.e. they're newer, a lot newer, and therefore potentially don't need maintaining so quickly as perhaps somewhere like Christchurch City Council.
Yep,
but yeah, I understand we're in a unique position. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to make any further comment? Does Julie want to make any further comment?
No, I think we're happy. If there's any other questions on my report, I'm happy to field them, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Judy, for that. You may be excused. Okay. We'll let you know when this combined meeting is coming up, our workshop. Okay, right.
Fantastic. Thank you. Apologies for that.
Okay,
Just need to move and
Guardian.
just need to move and second my report.
yeah, I will, but it's nothing else you want to bring up on there. Okay, could I just move and I ask for a seconder of our executive director's report? I'll move. Is there a seconder? John? Right. In fact, John can move it and Calvin can second it. How's that sound? Okay, then we've got everybody on. If there's no further, I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Yeah.
Please say aye. Against, carried.
Hang on.
Now, oh, Sian, I beg your pardon.
Can I come back to the motion that I raised in my report? And that is that the Malvern Community Board submits on this consultation and prioritises time ASAP to appoint someone to draft the submission.
I basically took that as accepted to be fair, and I would hope that we can do that in our workshop, which I want a date for that, which will be so we can all work it in together. Did you want to?
I'd like to move a motion that we,
Yeah, well, this is not
Something that
relevant
is-
to Steve's report, though.
it's relevant to the local water done well consultation.
Yeah, but it's not only that you want to. Okay, if you want to be part of that, yeah, okay, all right. So you'll move the motion as tabled.
I want to move a motion that Malvern Community Board submits on this consultation
Yep.
and that we prioritise time as soon as possible to appoint someone to draft the submission
Okay, that's in relation to Steve's report.
in relation to the local
Yeah, that's
water
right.
done
It's
well
all
consultation
part
that
of
is open
Steve's-
now.
Part of Steve's report. Second up, Calvin. Any discussion? If not, I will move it. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carry. And we'll, I've already put the motion to receive Steve's report. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Right, okay. Sheffield Pool.
Yeah, so I've got Head of Recreation and Sport here, James Richmond, who's just going to come and give a quick overview of where we're at with Sheffield Pool. And also give you and the community an operational update on where we are tracking in regards to general operations and the other pools around your area. And James has accompanying a small presentation that will support his discussion.
No, that's fine. Appreciate that.
Kia ora koutou. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk a little bit about Malvern Aquatics. So the conversation before around an interesting season would be correct. So we've had I'm just talking to my report initially. There's been an interesting season in terms of weather and patronage, but we've actually been progressing fairly well. I'll take my report largely as read, but I'll just go skim through some highlights. So 20,000 visits to Darfield Pool so far season to date is amazing outcome. We don't know how great that is because the door counters have just gone in, so we don't have a baseline, but that is quite a lot higher than anticipated, and a really good view of what we're doing quite well, I believe, in Malvern at the moment. In terms of, I'll just look behind me so I can see my presentation. In terms of the way we're operating the pool, it's been quite challenging shifting modes a little bit. Historically, there was lane swimming at one time, learn to swim at another time, school sessions at another time, quite a lot of exclusive use. And we've tried to merge that all in together, which has given people better access to the pool at more flexible times. But what it's meant is we've had a lot of feedback that, the pool's really busy all the time and we can't book in. It's an interesting piece of feedback. because we're actually getting far more people through the facility by doing it that way. But we're taking that feedback on board and just trying to adapt to it a little bit as well. But what we're seeing is better utilisation of the pool, and you can turn up at any time and get a lane to swim in, rather than before where you'd be blocked out for quite substantial blocks of time. Just looking back again, in terms of online bookings, it's been an interesting one. We've changed our system from a very, very paper-based system to an online booking system, which gives us the ability to have one card, which is great. But the downside has been the transition from the paper database and in some cases multiple electronic databases held at Selwyn Aquatic Centre into one system. That's created some duplications of accounts, but we've been working through that, and the community have actually been pretty good at understanding what we're trying to do there. So that's been pretty well received. In terms of health and safety, it's been a pretty light year in terms of major incidents, but it's worth noting there that there's been one issue at Sheffield Pool. That was actually really recent and didn't quite make my report, so that was last week. A 5-year-old was wearing a flotation vest and undid the flotation vest themselves. They quickly went to the bottom of the pool. Both the lifeguard and the mother of the child saw it happening. A kickboard was thrown to the child to try and get them to grab it. They missed the kickboard, and both the mother and the lifeguard went to effect the rescue. So just something that it was a relatively serious event that took place, but it all ended up fine. The child didn't go under for any significant length of time, a couple of seconds at the most, but it's just something to be aware of. Look, lessons delivered, 1,500 lessons delivered by Selwyn District Council staff, which is a great outcome. We are operating only out of Darfield Aquatics facility at the moment, so out of Darfield Pool at the moment. But as you can see behind me, there's a lot of other activities going, from snorkeling lessons to pool parties. There's a whole range of activities being housed out there. The surf sessions are something quite new, but something we're trying to do some more rural outreach into when kids do venture to the coast and have a bit of identification of what a rip and things like that look like. So there's quite a bit going on in that space. Women's only evening is worth noting. So there's a women's only evening run recently, 10 attendees, which was really good. We'll continue running those across the district. We'll probably do another one before the end of the season. Generally, that is targeted at women who feel uncomfortable swimming in an open session or can't swim in an open session at all because of cultural beliefs. And it's been really well received by those members of the community. Just want to talk a little bit about Pool Safe. So Darfield has just gone through Pool Safe along with Selwyn Aquatic Centre and Southbridge Pool. This is essentially a quality assurance system that the industry implements. They implement a system where a whole lot of procedures and water tests get sent off to an assessor. The assessor reviews that information against a whole lot of benchmarks that are set in place. And then they do a site visit and interview staff and make sure that we've got those processes actually happening on the ground. So Darfield passed that assessment, pending only one more set of water tests. They generally ask for 4 months of water tests. We've been open for 3.5 so far, so we've got to submit the last month, and then we'll be good to go. So it's really good that the team were able to uphold that sort of best practice standard, and no major remedies were required. I guess the headline item at the moment for us and where the team's focusing most of the work is the Sheffield Pool consultation. So we've had all the submissions in, we believe. We've still received the odd one via post that's may have gone by the West Coast by the amount of time it's taken, but most of them are in, and there's going to be a hearing this Thursday, 6:30 at Sheffield Hall. So we've got 14 submitters. We're pretty sure that all of them are 14 hearings, and we're pretty sure that most of them are going to confirm. We're waiting for one or two just to double check that they're going to actually front up to the hearing, but we've pretty much got an agenda locked away for distribution tomorrow morning. So the team are currently checking through those. In terms of the next steps, that hearing panel will meet, obviously hear those submissions, and then come back together again in Sheffield to deliberate those what they've heard and what the submissions that they've received. And then a decision will go to, a recommendation will go to council for further deliberation. And then the deadline for a decision to be finalised and operationalised is 1 July. So a little bit like the waters, that decision will become permanent from 1 July. There may be some due diligence that happens between some of those time periods. So we may have some pending decisions based on community-run entities and their legal status and funding or anything else that may come up in those hearings. But this is the timeline that we're set to. This information here, because we're in a bit of a open environment in terms of what's happening with the submissions, has changed quite remarkably actually since I pulled this report together. So I can tell you that there's 181 submissions and 15 or 14 wanting to be heard, one waiting for confirmation. So good feedback and good engagement from the community. Approximately half of those submissions were through the digital means, with the other half obviously being paper. And that number may have swung slightly in the last wee while as submissions have come in. Hearings panel hasn't changed, except for the chair has changed. So I think initially it was going to be Councillor Dean chairing. Councillor Munt is now chairing the meeting. And that essentially concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions of the report or the presentation. There'll be some things I can answer. There'll be some things that might be challenging to answer, given we're halfway through a special consultative process without having gone through a hearings process or any deliberations.
All right, James, thank you for that. So a very good report. Sian.
Thank you, James. I just want to say thank you for the information around Duffield Pool. That's really cool to receive. I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback that I've had from members of the community and what I've observed. I've got children and we spend a lot of time down there. The new installations of the hydroslide and the bombing platform, I don't believe that this season has been utilised as much as what it was last season. It was generally open during school holidays for 2 hours a day and on weekend days for 2 hours a day, but not during the week. Reason being, the pool is too small. There is too many activities going on in that pool, which doesn't allow for that leisure period, particularly after school. So that was just some feedback that I wanted to provide. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Calvin?
Yeah, just a quick one on Sheffield Pool. Thank you that the council is going out to Sheffield to do the hearings, because that's a long way to travel if the community, it's great for you going there. Do you know if those hearings and the deliberations will be online or not? Just a question. Then.
Yeah, they won't be online.
Okay, thank you.
So of the 150 odd that you've got, what you mentioned, you say it's sort of split 50-50 at this stage.
No, that's not correct. It was split 50-50 in terms of the way in which they were submitted. So about 50%
right,
digital
okay.
and the others in person or paper based. Can't give you those numbers off the top of my head.
All right, but you've only got 14 who want to be heard.
Correct.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I'd like to thank James for the excellent presentation. And also, could I request that the PowerPoint be attached to the minutes?
Yep, I'll certainly provide an updated one with the most up-to-date numbers as we go forward.
Right, any further questions? Again, thank you, James. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Now, you got anybody else wants to say anything?
We're into general business.
Yeah, I know we are now, but so that's okay. What about
No, Matt was here with Ben. Matt was here with Ben.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Okay, we'll move on to general business. We've got items already notified. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'd just like to state the obvious, that the Your Water Done Well consultation is extremely compressed, and I understand that there is an ultimate deadline. because there's an awful lot of information for the public to consume. And I suppose, noting what was said earlier, that there is a separate legislation for the consultation process. My personal comment is that the submission form bears a fairly close resemblance to the representation review, and I think it sort of oversimplifies it. However, moving it to a higher level,
Thank you.
that sort of at page 5 of the consultation document, that sort of was a little bit concerned that maintaining the current in-house delivery for water services is not an option. And I now fully understand that the reason why that's not an option is because the council has decided, probably on the recommendation of staff, that it wouldn't be an option. However, I just feel that for an informed public to have their say, that there does seem to be, in my view, an option for having in-house delivery, and it may be that Selwyn District Council isn't quite up to it, but for an efficient district council, in-house delivery, in my view, would enable alignment with existing priorities and infrastructure. It would enable leverage from established systems, governance structure, and provide stability and predictability and low short-term transition costs. Because looking at the consultation documents, the short-term transition costs are significant. And if we go through to page 17, page 18, that by the time we get to 27, 28, the increased LTP to the WSCCO is sort of at 35%. And I'm not too sure that the offset through the reduction in the rates is going to be of that magnitude, so there's a zero cost. And we have the Mayor on public record stating that rates in Selwyn could well become unaffordable in the next few years. And I think that if we look at going to the preferred option that I think comes through very clearly in the consultation document, that's going to add significantly to the rates. There's also the issue on page 13 of the uncalled capital and the risk that is available there. I know it's a contingent risk, but if by some unforeseen chance it was required, it would be a major blow financially to the ratepayers. And I think setting up a totally new organisation requires, good for the unemployment, no doubt, a duplication of a finance department, human resources, legal, etc. And I just wonder, when the decision was made, whether the intangible benefits of actually providing in-house were actually fully considered and weighted appropriately. There's also, I think, the thing that I didn't get from the consultation document, which I may have missed, that if it goes to a outside organisation, are the assets going to be transferred to the outside organisation, or are the assets going to be retained? And given the fact that, as was previously said, Selwyn's in the lucky position of having quite good assets, it would be a shame for them to be lost to the ratepayers, because we can look forward, and the consultation document makes clear that we should spread the burden over the future generations, but there's also the past generations that have contributed to the assets, and we have a vested interest in making sure that that financial contribution isn't lost. And I think that the important thing is going to be out and about, and I know that it's all happening very fast, and we've got a meeting scheduled in Rolleston, but being parochial and concerned about Malvern, there is something nice about having council officers travel and actually having people be able to come along of an evening and have a face-to-face discussion. So finalising, I'd just like to stress that community engagement and trust in the council are strongest if the position was taken for an in-house delivery model, although that appears to be off the table, and that there's the other risk too, that by going outside of council, ratepayers are further excluded, and without being disrespectful to CORD, I think there are plenty of examples around where when council devolves decision-making and management to an outside, that elected representatives and eventually the ratepayers lose a lot of say, and localism is out the door and democracy is on the decline. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's fine. Is there any comments further to that? Steve first.
Yep, I think, and thank you for your thoughts, John. Look, I just wanted to probably clarify a couple of things around the options around ownership of assets. So firstly, the delivery of water services through an in-house model is an option, and it is being considered. I think what Julie stated is that status quo isn't an option because the legislation and the regulation is going to change. So what we do today will change when the act is finalised through Parliament and through an act of Parliament. So we've tried to clarify that. The challenge for us at the moment is we don't quite know what that end point is. But it is an option that the council would stay with an in-house, and that is identified on page 5. The second point is that the external entity is a council-controlled organisation. So essentially, whilst the assets are vested across, it does remain in local ownership because it is a council-controlled organisation. There'll be a statement of intent, much like we do with CORD at the moment on an annual basis. But the difference between CORD and this institution that potentially would be set up was that the degree of central government regulation and legislation that governs the delivery of water services is fundamentally different than it is for other assets that CORD might deliver for us. So I think there are a couple of unique distinctions between that. But certainly one of the benefits is the longer term call on assets and the ability to borrow against that, which is set out also in the legislation. So hopefully it's just clarified a couple of things, but certainly want to say that in-house is an option that is being considered.
Okay, thank you. John, do you want to make a comment? Calvin?
Yeah, I've got concerns from previous consultation documents that have come out. And I'd just like, if possible, council to give us an assurance, as this is such a very fast timescale, that as soon as they have some accurate data on how people have answered the questions, yes, no, there's only 2 questions really of any significance, yes and no, that we can get some data publicly available so that we can actually see what the public are saying, what the community are saying, and where they're heading, so that we can, as a community board, support them or not. Well, we have to support them because that's what we do, but support them to what they're saying and encourage council and councillors to make the right decisions around this very, very elixir of life issue that we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I can confirm that like other consultation processes under the Local Government Act, when there are both the hearings and then the deliberations, all of that information is publicly available, and generally, because we've got an awesome governance team, well in advance of the meetings, and so all of that information is public.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion on that aspect? John, you've got another couple.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm not too sure whether the Your Water Done Well has sort of cut across the connection to the sewage and wastewater. Because suppose there's 2 points on that. That as the president of the Darfield Residents Association mentioned, that he has made some inquiries on behalf of the association that there is approximately 500,000 sitting there that was raised as a targeted rate for the investigation and exploration. And without getting too pedantic, I believe the situation is that council has tentatively responded, well, don't nitpick, but look at it in a broader picture. And it was raised for this, so we should be able to move it there. And I have no objection to that, but I think it should be with community support. And then secondly is that there is a lot of angst in the community, Kerwee and Darfield, which are the two most affected, that people that are new to the area have a perfectly functioning 35-year consented sewage connection. There's been some exorbitant and probably completely out of proportion, not through to the council, but through to people's misperceptions, figures about connection fees from anywhere from 2,000 to 20,000. And I think people are looking for certainty about what's going to happen. I can understand council saying that when the wastewater goes through the street, everybody will be charged, that it's crystal ball gazing, but some idea of the charge. And then I think there's also that my reading of the information from 2023, which is a little bit dated, that a building consent was going to cost $490, including GST, thank goodness. And I would have imagined that the amount of work in assessing a building consent for a connection to the sewage doesn't quite justify a levy of that amount. And then I suppose the nub of the matter is it possible to say, well, look, we're going to look at the existing ones that are not functioning and running out, and that will take us through nominal figures 5 years. Then we're going to have a look at Telegraph Road. We're going to have a look at here, and that'll be in years 12 to 15. Just that sort of high level would be helpful.
Yeah. I think, just to summarise, I think Steve has taken it on. It's something, again, that I believe as part of our submissions we can do. Your last point, Calvin.
Could I just comment on that one, please?
Sorry?
Could I comment in John's?
Which you can.
So since the beginning of my term in 2022, I've been having questions from generally Darfield residents about what's the cost, when am I going to have to pay it, what's going to happen. So my perception is it's actually an information issue, as in the community don't know. We get rumours going around, and we have been for 3 years now, and that's not really on. We need to get that information out there. So I agree with John, but we need that's what we need to do. And I think Steve has said we're going to do that, which is good. Yeah.
I fully support Steve. Sorry, if you want to make a comment first.
Yeah, look, I think I take that on board. Let me go back and work with the team and see what I can bring back in way of a briefing that I think clarifies a number of really good questions. Let me go away and let's do some work, and then I'll communicate back through our work plan as to when I can give you that update.
I think, if we're looking back a few years, West Melton was a disaster. And I don't want to see that happening up here and the other things that we had. John, one more point.
Yeah,
can we be concise?
I always am, Mr. Chair. Just in relation to the ECAN bus things,
yes,
it just seems to me that, and this is more of a statement than sort of a question, that if they're going to put on a bus service that goes through West Melton, Kerwee to Rolleston, that's good. But one service a day is 138, 2 services a day is 179. And I suppose that there's just some, and I'd quite like to say that if we could have some time as a board
Yep.
to try and get our head around
Yep.
what, what's there, because without prejudging it too much, my preliminary position, which is always subject to change, is that neither of the options look terribly attractive.
Yeah, I think that's fair comment. Sian, do you want to make any comment on that as well, as you've
Yeah,
already made submissions?
I haven't, I've looked at the email that was sent through and what the options are. I haven't spent any more time on it than looking at it because I too have had to deal with children in
Correct,
hospitals
correct.
this past couple of weeks. But we do definitely as a group need to get together real fast
Yep.
and discuss the water submissions, the ECAM public transport submissions.
Okay.
Those are the first most pressing ones, and then
Thank you.
not long after that will be the NZTA speed management plan, which
So
is
we've-
important to the community. So I think we need to decide dates when we're going to meet and discuss.
That's right.
our
So we've discussed the aspects of general business. I now we can either close the meeting and because I want to set some dates. So if there's nothing further under general business and there's nothing further that any board member wants to say, it's my intention at this stage to just thank everybody who's been here today, and particularly our council staff, for the information that has been supplied to us. And I declare the meeting closed. So now I want some dates, particularly. Oh. I may have got a date.
We might just, I think